Hi, I've just seen another a few very interesting articles. How do you sell EVs? How do you sell them? You know, they're cheap to charge at home. Yep, they are. Absolutely. Cheap to charge. They're cheaper to run than a nice car. No, they're not. Because they depreciate more. And certainly if you're one of the people, I used to sell loads of cars to people who used to change the car every year. Nobody can afford to do that with an electric vehicle now. You just got no chance. Because they cost more than an ICE car new, 12 months old, same mileage, same spec, same whatever. They're worth, on average, £3,000 less. The EV people are putting that across to you as a win, as a plus, making EVs more affordable, but they're not. People don't carry on buying new things that drop like a stone. Not unless you're an idiot. And to be fair, the people who they want to buy them, privates, they're not stupid. They've no tax breaks. They've no benefit in kind. They've no nothing. They can charge at home, but it's still not cheaper than a nice car to buy, so they've stopped buying them. Make of that what you will. How do you get them to buy them? Baz, what would you do? Baz, how would you get them to buy them? How would you address the falling residuals? With your massive brain power and being in the motor trade 50 years, what would you do? I don't know. Hey, it's beyond me. It's absolute. You can't do anything. When somebody tells you that you've got to sell so many, and customers know that you've got to sell so many, it's a buyer's market. I can only liken it to, and I've seen this in many garages I've worked at, desperation. When one salesman is selling loads and everything's going right, there'll be another salesman that everything's going wrong for. I've seen it tons of times, all the time. These people, when they go to try and sell a car, you can see the desperation. It frightens people off. That's what's happening now. If any private's going in to buy an EV, they can basically, write a figure down what they're prepared to give. And anybody working on the pendulum system, you'll see that salesman wearing his shoe leather out, going backwards and forwards to the sales manager. But I tell you what, if you are interested in an EV and you're in a showroom, unless the sales manager is a complete dummy, he'll be working you as hard as he possibly can and you'll be going out with an EV, no matter what. Because if he sells you that EV at cost, do you know what it means? It means he can sell 3 ICE cars at a handsome profit. He'll probably take 3 ICE car part exchanges in and go on to make money. That's just by selling one EV. Get it? All right, cheap to charge. Would you buy one if it was free to charge? Baz, you're not saying they should be free to charge, surely. What about all the money that the Chancellor will lose on people buying electric vehicles and not paying 53 pence per litre fuel tax on petrol and diesel? Just imagine how much he's going to lose. Right, well, let's just go through it. Why owning an EV is only less expensive. This is money. Why owning an EV is only less expensive that running a petrol car if you can charge at home, where it is 53% cheaper. It's not. Because if you take into account depreciation, Still works out more expensive to run than a nice car, but, you know, a nice... By Frieda Lewis Stempel, 4th of March 2025. The cost of ultra-rapid charging an electric car has fallen. Good news for EV drivers who want to top up quickly on long journeys. The average price of using the fastest charging devices most commonly found along motorway routes fell by 1 pence per kilowatt in January. As David Flett, a guy I used to work with, would say, whoopee shit. The AA's EV recharge report shows, whilst this isn't much, no, it's not much, is it? It's nothing, especially when your EV's depreciating by 3,400 quid a month. Oh, how many pennies is that? Fell by 1p per kilowatt hour in January. The AA's EV recharge report shows, whilst this isn't much, it does buck the trend of rising EV charging costs. There was no change in the cost of either peak or off-peak, slow, fast or rapid charging last month, which goes to show that it is worth scheduling charging for off-peak times where you can. So what they want you to do, set your alarm for 1 o'clock, get up out of your nice warm bed and go and fast charge your car. I mean, who writes this? You can't... All reps... Right, new rule. Nobody goes to work during the day. No reps all night. They just go to work at night so they can charge the car cheap. Meanwhile, petrol prices rose by 2.3 pence to an average of 138.9 pence per litre. £6.30 a gallon. Never been so cheap. Petrol prices rose by 2.3p to an average of 138.9 pence per litre in the same month as the nation's drivers of combustion engine cars face rising costs to fill up and ongoing uncertainty over volatile oil prices as a result of ongoing and threatening global conflicts. What happened in the last, when... What was that war called? Where they set all the oil wells on fire? Which reminds me. So, an oil well, big fire. Saudi Arabia, big fire. And it used to be Red Adair who come out to these things, charge them a fortune for capping, extinguishing the fire and capping the pipe, charge them a fortune. Anyway, during the war, Red Adair, really, really busy. Not enough hours in the day. So, oil rigs on fire, ring Red Adair. I'm sorry, mate, I can't come out. He says, but you can try my cousin, Paddy Adair. So he rings Paddy up, gets Paddy. He says, we've got an oil well here that needs urgently capping. He says, how much will you charge? He says, gives a couple of £100 for me and the lads. I'll be out there tomorrow. So it's right, you're on. So anyway, next day they're waiting, flames shooting out the oil rig. And he sees this old Land Rover Defender pull up at the top of the hill, the sand hill, just gets to the top. And then it comes down the sand hill, increasing speed, get faster and faster and faster, comes to the bottom, comes to a halt, right in the middle, all the flames. Half a dozen Irish guys jump out, it's not racist. Half a dozen Irish guys jump out with the picks and they're all there. And they've got it capped in no time. And anyway, they all come out, the hair's singed and clothes and so on. Goes to the guy who owns the rig and he gives him a check. He says, for blooming heck, he says, that's fantastic. He says, what are you going to do with your money now? He says, well, the first thing I'm going to do is get the brakes fixed on my Land Rover. But the research shows on a pence per mile basis, The price of filling a petrol car still beats an EV in many instances, but if you charge your EV at home, this beats every option by far. If you can charge at home. GB News. Electric vehicle owners wasting 13.2 million every month on expensive public charging costs. Drivers lose over £13 million a month on public charging. Electric vehicle owners have been warned that they are losing millions of pounds every month by not charging from home. If they don't already know, warning them is not going to do any good. But I'm only using this because new data reveal that drivers are wasting roughly 13.2 million each month when powering their vehicle elsewhere rather than with cheaper charging at home. Going back to what I said before, why don't we give electric drivers free electric? That would shore up electric vehicle residual values. Nothing more certain than that. I know what you're thinking, you know, like, where you're going with this, Baz. I haven't particularly got time to do all the research, so I'm going to assume that this is accurate. EV ownership and energy consumption. As of 2024, there are approximately 1.2 million EVs on the road. Assuming an average daily travel distance of 20 miles per vehicle and efficiency of 3.5 miles per kilowatt hour, each EV would consume about 5.7 kilowatts daily. Charging costs. Home charging. The average cost of electricity for home charging is approximately 24 pence per kilowatt. Public charging costs vary, with rapid chargers averaging around 78p per kilowatt. Total daily energy consumption, 1.2 million EVs times 5.7 kilowatt hours equals 6.84 million kilowatts. If all EVs charged at home, 6.84 million kilowatts at 0.24, yes, you can get, there's a link in my description for Octopus Energy, where it's about 7p per kilowatt. I don't think, I think some of these cheap rates, they charge you more as a daily rate and so on, or you pay a little bit more for your other, but you get, so I can't even be bothered thinking about working that out. If all EVs charged at home, 6.84 million kilowatts at 24 kilowatts per hour equals 1.642 million pounds daily. If all EVs use public rapid chargers, 6.84 million kilowatt hours times 78p per kilowatt hour equals 5.335 million daily. Realistic scenario. In practice, EV owners utilise a mix of home and public charging, while exact figures are unavailable, assuming 70% of charging occurs at home and 30% via public chargers. 6.84 million kilowatt hours times 70% equals 4.788 million kilowatt hours times 0.24 kilowatt hours equals 1.149 million. Public charging costs 6.84 million times 30% equals 2,052 million kilowatt hours. 2,052 million kilowatt hours times 78p equals 1.601 million. From all those, estimated totally daily expenditure 1.149 million at home plus 1.601 million public equals 2.75 million per day. So it would cost 2.75 million a day for all the electric vehicles in the UK at the moment. 2.75 million a day. Then we come to the Telegraph. Wind turbine owners are getting money for nothing. Labour's net zero obsession has created a dysfunctional world in which the basic rules of economics are ignored. We could have rebuilt a couple of hospitals or bought 45 new Challenger tanks or restored the winter fuel allowance to 800,000 of the neediest pensioners. I'm one. Even allowing for inflation, there are still lots of things you could do with 250 million. Instead, as the Telegraph revealed on Monday, over the first 2 months of this year, we spent it on paying wind farms to switch off their turbines. We are spending vast sums of money we don't have on power systems that has become completely dysfunctional and which has landed us with electricity that is cripplingly expensive. We need to start fixing that before the country is bankrupted and our industry is wiped out. In principle, generating electricity from the wind should be the perfect solution, especially for a country such as the UK where, if we're being honest, it can be a little blustery at times. It doesn't involve any carbon emissions, it will never run out, and it can be generated domestically. Doesn't involve any carbon emissions apart from making those big wind turbine things. And if you watch Billy Bob Thornton talk about them in Landman, then it opens your eyes. Boris Johnson used to talk about turning the UK into the Saudi Arabia of wind. And while I'll tell you what, if they want wind power, they want to get these gas bag EV drivers that keep insulting me. Crikey, you never run out of wind with them lot. And while there may have been some characteristic hyperbole in that promise, there was nothing wrong with the ambition. The technology could have been ideal for the UK. The trouble is, it's not working out as planned. Bottlenecks in the network of cables that move electricity around the country mean that at crucial times wind farms have to be switched off to prevent the grid from becoming overloaded. So far this year, operators have been paid up to an average of just under £180,000 an hour to switch off their turbines because there is nowhere for the power to go. The so-called constraint payments have already cost an extraordinary £252 million in the first 2 months of 2025, up from £158 million over the same period last year, an increase of 60%. In effect, Britain is paying more and more for these farms to do nothing. Even worse, while the wind farms sit idle, other generators, very often a gas plant, have to cover shortfalls in the network where power is needed. Last Friday afternoon, £79,507 was spent on switching off wind turbines, while £1.2 million was spent buying energy elsewhere, according to the Wasted Wind website, which analyses Elexon market data. I live in a flood area here. When they think it's going to flood, the water company sends you a text to your mobile phone. What about this? What about pensioners who've got EVs? Private people who've got EVs? What about texting them, come and get your free electricity? Let's get them wind turbines going. Let's make EVs worthwhile having. Let's make them cheap to run. Let's make them cheaper than a nice car to run. Why not? If we're going to do it, let's do it properly. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video. Bye bye.